All right, hi everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Cody. I'm a marketing specialist here at QNAP, and I'm here with our product manager, Deval.
Good morning, everyone.
And today we're going to be discussing how you can leverage a QNAP NAS to support video production workflows, ranging from small scale projects and independent creators to entire teams of editors. And we'll discuss some of the bottlenecks in production that QNAP can help alleviate, as well as best practice guidelines to maintain your data. And so looking at the agenda, you can see we'll start off discussing high-speed connections that come on various QNAP models, and then we'll go over some potential deployments that could be considered. Then we'll discuss ways in which QNAP helps you maintain uptime without interruption and strategies you can implement to foster greater server stability. And after that, we'll discuss data security and the measures you can take to make sure your hard work isn't lost. So if we take a look here, to support some smooth editing, it's important that the connection to the storage is fast. So quick throughput ensures minimal latency and is important when dealing with high resolution footage to enable a smooth editing experience. QNAP is a leader in high speed connections on NAS. And so as you can see here, depending on your needs, you can choose between models with 2.5 gigabit, 10 gigabit, and even 25 gigabit connections, as well as Thunderbolt 3 and soon Thunderbolt 4. There are also models with PCIe slots that can support up to 100 gigabit on select models. Of course, to bring out the full potential of these connections, other factors must also be considered, such as the number of drives in a RAID array, the type of drives, and the CPU, as well as the workstation you're connecting with, and any switches in between the workstation and the storage. So let's take a look at a few ways in which QNAP can be deployed just in various environments. So first, we have just a classic typical NAS connection, a NAS connecting over Ethernet to a router, and then a workstation connecting over Ethernet to that same router as well. And some NAS may have only single gigabit connections, but in recent years, more and more QNAPs are coming equipped with 2.5 gigabit. You would probably want at least that much for video editing, but remember, you would also need that 2.5 gigabit connection on the router and the connecting workstation. Otherwise, the speed will be bottlenecked by the slowest connection. And while the connection gives you the potential for high-speed connectivity, it doesn't guarantee it. The connection is merely the size of the pipe, or you could say it's like the size of a freeway. It can enable network traffic to move quickly, but there are other factors at play. So you still need the powerful CPU, the fast drives, or many drives in a RAID to saturate your connection. The most basic QNAP models for editing start with quad-core Intel Celeron processors and include M.2 SSD slots that you could use to create a cache or a dedicated SSD storage pool. This is basically like a bare bones setup for maybe like a single editor. So looking at this second scenario, here you can see a similar setup in that there's a single editor accessing a single NAS, but in this case, the editor is accessing the NAS directly via Thunderbolt 3. This Thunderbolt connection is a Thunderbolt over IP connection, so the editor would still need to mount the folder rather than just seeing it appear the way an external drive would. But this still provides a connection to the NAS at very high speeds, and it's still pretty simple to deploy. In this example, we're looking at our upcoming Thunderbolt 4 model, but we currently have a Thunderbolt 3 model that is very similar. Both include M.2 slots for faster drive speed and an Intel Celeron processor. And so now let's start looking at a few multi-editor scenarios. In this case, you can see that we've put a 10 gigabit and 2.5, kind of a hybrid 10 gigabit, 2.5 gigabit switch between the router and the NAS. We're going to connect, so here we're going to connect this 10 gigabit NAS to the switch via one of the switch's 10 gigabit connections, and then we could use these additional 2.5 gigabit connections to go out to the individual workstations. If we were to use just 2.5 gigabit connections, then there wouldn't be enough total bandwidth to support full 2.5 gigabit for each workstation. But the 10 gigabit connection enables multiple workstations to potentially saturate each 2.5 gigabit connection. To help saturate network connections to the TS-H973AX, we include 4 2.5-inch SSD drive bays, and 2 of which are U.2 NVMe drive bays, in addition to the 5 standard 3.5-inch drive bays. So you could consider either using a cache or creating multiple storage pools for the editors to work off of. And if we go on to the next deployment, here we can see a setup with a 10 gigabit connection, as well as Thunderbolt via a Thunderbolt adapter. This particular model, the TVS H1688X, comes equipped with 2 10 gigabit ports, and if we pair that with a managed 10 gigabit switch, we can set up port trunking to give a total of 20 gigabit aggregate bandwidth to be shared among connecting devices via the 10 gigabit switch. So additionally, up to 2 editors can connect via the Thunderbolt 3 using the PCIe expansion card. Thunderbolt 3 connections typically have a 40 gigabit theoretical max speed, while Thunderbolt 3 over IP, which is how connections can be made to the QNAP, has a maximum of 20 gigabits per port. This is a PCIe Gen 3x4 Thunderbolt card, so the theoretical maximum speed for that connection will be just under 32 gigabits total for both ports on the card. But this connection is still plenty fast for your editors. And to make use of the high-speed connections, the TVS H1688X has 12 3.5-inch drive bays, as well as 4 2.5-inch drive bays, ideal for SSDs, and 2 M.2 NVMe SSD slots. The NAS is also equipped with a Xeon processor. And finally, we have the fastest setup of all. This is our TS-H1290FX model, which comes equipped with 12 U.2 NVMe drive bays, an AMD EPYC processor, and a 25 gigabit SFP28 connection built in. You could pair this with our 25 gigabit switch, which is also backward compatible with 10 gigabit SFP plus and has one 10 gigabit RJ45 port. Additionally, this unit is compatible for expansion cards to give 40 gigabit or even 100 gigabit connections, and this is via a PCIe Gen 4x16 expansion slot. So there's plenty of bandwidth on all fronts. This is the ultimate solution for intensive workflows, including 4K, 6K, and 8K editing. And the nice thing about it is it's a desktop model rather than a rack mount. And so it doesn't run all that loud. And also you're running all SSD drives, so you don't have the spinning drives creating noise. It's designed to be a little bit quieter and to be you can just put it right in your office, right where your editors are working. And so since we've looked at a few different environments that we could potentially set up, I wanted to look at how we can maintain the workflow and maintain uptime. First off, all QNAP NAS are configurable for all of the major RAID arrays, including RAID 5, RAID 6, RAID 10, RAID 50, and RAID 60. So basically, if a drive fails, you can simply put in a fresh drive to rebuild the RAID without any interruption to your work. And for additional protection, you have the option to purchase a license for drive failure prediction. And this software uses AI to predict when a drive is likely to fail. So you can order that drive ahead of time and replace it ahead of time. And so just maintain just seamless workflow without any interruption or any issues. And we also include snapshot technology standard on all of our NAS. And so with many editors, the chances of something maybe being accidentally deleted could go up. So snapshot saves the state of your data at a point in time so that it can be rolled back to. So if a user accidentally deletes something that wasn't supposed to be deleted, you can get that file back. And next, we wanted to look at data security. Of course, anytime you're dealing with large amounts of crucial data, security is paramount. And there are a number of steps that can be taken to ensure safe, secure data. For starters, simply keeping your firmware updated can eliminate a large portion of security threats, as oftentimes a vulnerability will be patched in recent firmware. Another issue is how you connect your NAS to the outside world. The safest option is to keep it confined to your own network, so that it just isn't open to the internet. That's really going to be quite safe, but some people may want access from the outside. So if you do, you can set up a connection via a VPN to your network, or a connection to the NAS via an SSL certificate. And this will give you an encrypted connection to the NAS, which is going to be much safer than standard port forwarding. Additionally, QNAP comes equipped with QFirewall, which adds an additional layer of protection at the NAS level beyond just your router's firewall. If your NAS does get some sort of malware, QNAP has a malware remover app to help remove malware, and security features in QNAP can easily be navigated within the Security Counselor app, which kind of consolidates many of the security features of the NAS. And so with that, I'm going to be handing it off to Deval, and he's going to give us a hands-on look with a live demo.
All right, thank you very much, Cody. All right, so good morning, everybody. My name is Deval. I'm the product manager here at QNAP, and today we'll be looking, today for the live demo, we have a few things I would like to show you that may help in with the production, and some tips and tricks on getting the best out of your configurations, as well as how to connect via Thunderbolt connection, and also maybe a small editing session if possible, just to showcase how easy it is when you connect a QNAP NAS. So let me share my screen again. So here we have an 872 XT, which is a Thunderbolt 3 model that I've connected with the QNAP NAS. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is basically having to with network configuration, right? So let's say now most of our NAS comes with dual network connection, right? Either it could be 2 10 gigabit connection, or it could be 2 1 gigabit connection. Now, if you do have a switch that actually supports, so if you have a QNAP switch, a managed switch, then you can actually take advantage of having, or first of all, connecting both together to give you, benefits of having higher bandwidth when you have multiple editors connecting to your NAS, or it can also give you redundancy. So in case if one of the connection goes down, the other connection will take over, and this all happens when the NAS and the switch will work together, right? So if you have a QNAP NAS with a QNAP NAS with a QNAP switch, a managed switch, I'll show you the configuration that you need to do to get that setup going. Or if you have any managed switch that supports LACP or 802.380, that switch will also work with this connection. First of all, you have to log into your switch. So on the QNAP switch, you can just log in with your admin login information. Should be same for other switches as well. You should look at something on most of the switches. The naming structure can be a little bit different, right? So I have QNAP connected to two 1 gig switches, which is two 1 gig network, which is a port 1 and 4. So on QNAP switch, you have to go to link aggregation, and you will see your link aggregation right here. On other switches, they could be also called as port, LACP or 802.380. Those could be some of the wordings that may be used with other switches. So on this switch, let's say if I want to do a lag 1, so you have to set up for first lagging. So you can actually set up to 4 ports. If you have a QNAP NAS, actually have up to 4 ports. You want to do with 4 ports, but I just have 2 ports connected, so I just have to click 1 and 2 and click on save. I'm not going to do that today on this live demo, because that may refresh the network connection and I may lose network connectivity. So do this when you have nothing running on the QNAP NAS or no one is accessing your QNAP NAS, right? So check the 2 ports or 4 ports depending upon your connection to be on that LACP, and the mode should be always LACP, and you can save that. And once you have done that, let me see. Okay, so 872XT, go to network and virtual switch. Under network and virtual switch, you go to interfaces, and under interfaces you will see port trunking. Now this port trunking will allow you to join 2 network ports together, and when you hit add, it will ask you some questions. So first one, you have to select the ports. So which one you want to connect. So I'm going to select adapter 2 and 3, which is the 2 ports that are connected to the switch. Once you select next, so here we do have some options already available. So if you're just using this connection, if you have another QNAP NAS, or you're just connecting two of them directly, you can click on JBOD connection or virtual JBOD. And that will give you the best speeds and connectivity. If you have a switch that is not a managed switch and doesn't support 802.380, you can actually select general switch and hit next. On the general switch, when you hit next, you have 3 different options, right? You have active backup, which allows you to will just be as an active backup. So it doesn't give you any aggregated speed. Only one NIC is active at all times. The other one will just be acting as a backup. So if your primary port goes down, the other switch will take over. You have load balancing options that are available with a general switch as well. So we have balanced TLB and balanced ALB. So balanced TLB is, again, as you can see right here, the incoming traffic. When you have a lot of incoming traffic, the QNAP will actually take advantage of both the ports to provide you will provide you with better benefits as well. It will give you the both benefits as well when you have incoming traffic with it also uses MAC address as well. But if you have a switch that doesn't support MAC address as well, so then MAC address load balancing, then we have balanced ALB as well. So if you're not getting any benefits over balanced TLB, so when you're using general switch, you probably cannot log into your switch and cannot check that options. So but what you can do is you can perform some test, and when you have multiple, so you have to remember always, you have to have multiple network computers connecting to your QNAP NAS to give you the best benefits. A single computer won't take advantage of both the switch, because your single computer is only using one network port. If you have a computer that actually has 2 network ports, then it may be able to take advantage, but you also have to set up port trunking on that switch as well. But I'm just talking about multiple editors logging into the QNAP NAS and balanced TLB, and then when you log into multiple multiple editors are logging in and they're not getting much advantage, or the QNAP is only using 1 port, maybe try balanced ALB as well. And maybe that will allow you to, because balanced ALB will use incoming IP4 traffic. So that may be able to, your switch may be able to respond better using balanced ALB as well. So try balanced TLB and balanced ALB if you have a switch that is not able to support, or it's not a managed switch, or it doesn't support 802.380, or doesn't support LACP. So maybe try doing those options, and that will give you benefits. Again, remember, you have to use multiple computers to give you the best advantage. A single computer won't take advantage of having multiple ports. Okay, going back, if you do have managed switch that supports 802.380, then you may want to then just set up 802.380 dynamic, and that will give you the switch. That will give you the best performance out of all these options, right? You can actually use balance XOR or balance RR if you want to do round robin. If your switch supports that better, but on what we have seen in the past, 802.380 dynamic gives you the best performance if you have a switch that actually supports that option. So select balanced ALB, 802.380 and hit apply. And once you hit apply, the QNAP will now use now what you're going to see right here. Let me actually set this up, and if it does go down, we can always disable that again. You can actually set up layer 2 backend IP or layer 2, and 3. I would recommend layer 2 and 3. So if it gives you the best configuration out of both of them, hit yes. So, and now let me set up the lag as well right here. So 1 and 4. I think that was the 1 and 4. Hit save, and so the port trunking should be set up. So QNAP should now be reloading. So what you're going to see is, instead of having 2 IP addresses, QNAP will only give you 1 IP address for both network adapters, and then you just have to use that IP address to give them to all the editors, and they will now be able to connect with that. So you can actually, as you can see right here, it actually shows you aggregated speed of 2 gigabits per second. So that and it's going to be the same IP address. So thus 10.15.138.27, you can give this to all the editors, and what they just have to log into this IP address, and QNAP and switch will work together to use both the ports on the switch and the NAS to give you the best benefit. So if you have, maybe one of the editors will use port 1, the other one will use port 2, or so on and so forth. But QNAP and switch will work together to load balance the high traffic that's coming from multiple computers, and give you the best benefits. And if you have 10 gigabit connectivity, it actually can theoretically it can go up to 20 gigabits. If you have 4 ports, it can actually go to 40 gigabits per second as well. So that's the benefit of having port trunking, and a switch that actually supports port trunking. We recommend QNAP switch again because it does support that, and actually supports up to 4 ports together. Now, so next option, what I would like to show you is, so this is one of the tips and tricks that we recommend, is port trunking. The other tip and trick, if you especially when using 10 gigabit, 100 gigabit, 40 gigabit connection, what we recommend is higher jumbo frames per second, especially for video editing as well. We recommend having higher jumbo frames per second. If you're using 1 gigabit connection, you may not need to change the settings, but especially if you're using 10 gigabit connection, I recommend this setting. So jumbo frame will allow you to actually have higher packets that QNAP and computer will support that, and the switch is automatically configured. The switch, you don't need to set up jumbo frames on the switch. Actually on the QNAP switch can actually check. You can actually go under ports configuration and actually you can actually see right here it doesn't have that option. The speed is automatically configured, but if you have another switch, you may actually have to set up jumbo frame on the switch as well. But on the QNAP switch, you don't need to configure that. You just have to go to QNAP NAS, go to configure, and change the jumbo frame to 9,000. All right, once you set up that 9,000 on the QNAP NAS's side, you also have to set that up on, I'm not going to change that live right now, but once you change it on the QNAP NAS's side, you actually have to go to your computer and actually have to set it up on the computer as well. On all the computers that the QNAP will be using, you have to set up your jumbo frame to 9,000. So on the Mac, you have to go to network, select so I have a Thunderbolt, I think, yeah, I have this network connected. Go to advanced, I think it's under hardware, and then go to manual, and then right here you can set the jumbo frame to 9,000. And on the, unfortunately, I don't have a Windows computer to show you in the live demo, but it's under network adapter settings, and under change the network adapter, and under advanced there should be an option to change the jumbo frame to 9,000 on the Windows computer as well. But you have to remember, you have to set that up on the computer as well as on the NAS to get the best advantage. If you did not set on the computer, you may actually have some errors or disconnection between the QNAP NAS and the computer if the jumbo frame is not set up correctly on the QNAP itself, or on the computer or on the NAS. So you have to make sure or ensure that both computers and the computer, switch, and the NAS are all on the same jumbo frames. Especially when you're using 10 gigabit connectivity, you always want to make sure you have 9,000 set up. Right, for 1 gigabit connectivity, you don't need to change the settings. It won't give you a better advantage over any other selecting any other settings. But especially when you're using 10 gigabit or above, you want to change. You want to ensure that using 9,000 as your jumbo frame. So those are some tips and tricks for setting up your network. The next I want to show you is storage and snapshot settings. So especially when using the NAS for video editing or video production, you want to ensure that you're setting up your cache, especially when you have a NAS that actually uses hard drives and SSDs, or hybrid setup where you have multiple hard drives and then you also have SSDs. Right here I have on this demo I have two different configurations I'm going to go through. I have disk 4 through 8 I have set up as a hard drive, regular hard drive, and then 1 through 3 is SSD drives. Now this is an 872XT. It actually also supports M.2s as well. Now when you have a hybrid setup, you have two different options to select between to set up your network and your storage configuration. First is Q tier. So right here, I'm sorry. So right here you have Q tier options, and then you have SSD caching. So let me explain what the differences between those two are. So when you're using Q tier, QNAP will actually use those SSD as part of your storage pool. So right here, I have, as I mentioned, I have so the storage pool is disk 4 through 7. It's a 6 terabyte disk on all these on all disk 4 through 7, and then I have I think 2 terabyte of SSD volume. So and both are set up on RAID 5. So if you go to manage, and you will see RAID group 1 and 2. So RAID group 1, which is the 4 disk, which is a regular spinning hard drive, and then this 1 through 3 would be the SSD drives. So what QNAP Q tier will do is will actually join both of them together to give you a large storage pool that consists of both regular hard drive and SSD drives, and both will be on different RAID groups. So what the benefit of having this particular option is, whatever data you use the most, QNAP will automatically transfer that data into the SSD drive. So in these, so QNAP will use the RAID group for SSD drive to give you will transfer all the hottest data that you actually use. For cold data that you're actually not using currently, QNAP will store that data within the hard drive. The benefit of having this setup is now you don't need to manually transfer data into SSD drives or into hard drive. QNAP understands what data you're going to be using a lot. That data will automatically be transferred into the SSD drives, and whatever data you use the least will stay in the hard drive. So the benefit of having this is that you can actually have large storage capacity. So you have up to 16.35 terabyte of storage, and for high-speed connection, I actually have 3.13 terabytes. So because not all my data I'm going to be using at the same time, right? Not all 16 or 19 terabyte of data I'm going to be using at the same time. My current projects may be smaller, so QNAP will put that data in a smaller SSD drive. But because it's a NAS device, I want to ensure that I have a large storage capacity. So all my projects are still have space to be stored within the NAS. So QNAP will use the high capacity hard drives to store your different projects, right? Now, people who will get the most benefit of having Q-tiering is so for video editors who work on the same project for multiple days. So if you're using the same project, let's say you're working on an advertisement, or you're working on a movie, or you're working on a clip, but you're working on that same project for over a few days, right? And then once you're done with that project, you then start with another project that project goes for a few more days. So those are the users who will get the best advantage, because QNAP will require some time to understand what data you use a lot, right? So once it understands what data you're going to be using a lot, then the QNAP will start transferring that data into the SSD drives. And then once you're done with the project, the QNAP understands you can start with the next project. So QNAP will start transferring the old project into the hard drive, and the new project will be transferred back into the SSD drive. So, but again, QNAP needs some time to understand that. So, we recommend users who actually work on the same project for over a few days. Recommend using Q-tiering will be for those users only. For users who use a lot of random projects in the same day, a lot of users are using different projects. They're smaller clips. They're not using the same file over and over again for a few days. They just work on random projects at the same time. Then SSD caching are for those users, and I'll explain that in a few moments. But again, so tiering schedule again will QNAP will automatically start tiering. What tiering means is that it will start transferring data between the hard drives and the SSD drives. And when you set it up at automatic, QNAP will see what time you use the least NAS, and it will start transferring data when you are using the NAS. So when you have a downtime, the QNAP will start transferring data during the downtime, during night times, or during any times. Or you can actually set up a manual schedule as well. You can ask the QNAP to only transfer data between the SSD and hard drives during night times or during daytimes, or whatever times you want to select. But for automatic, most of the users are actually happy with that, and QNAP will just see what times you use the least NAS, and then we'll start transferring data during that time. On tiering on demand is when you have a lot of folders, you want to tier all the folders, right? Because you can have a lot of backup folders. You can have a lot of different projects, or backup files, Mac time machine files. You don't want to put those data into the SSD drive, right? So tiering on demand will allow you to select only folders that you want to keep, or you want to use it on SSD drive. So I have an NAB folder where I have all my video editing files. So I can enable that. So any files that I work on under NAB 2022 will then be used to transfer into SSD drives. The rest of my folders, like multimedia folders or hyperdata protector or FTP folders, they're not important. I don't need high-speed connection to those folders. I disable that. So this is a great option for you to actually understand or actually control what goes into SSD drives. Not all your data you want it on SSD drive, right? So only want certain folders to be on the SSD drives, and hit apply. Only those folders will now be transferred over to SSD drives. And under statistics, we can see what's going on with your tiering. When it tiers, what transfer data is being transferred over. So you can see what's going on, what data has been moved up, what data has been moved down, and operations. So this will give you detailed information about what's going on with your tiering as well. So that is Q-tiering in a nutshell. So again, and Q-tiering will have this icon next to it. So this will give you this will let you know that you're using Q-tiering as well, and with the QNAP NAS. So that's Q-tiering in a nutshell. As I mentioned before, users who actually work on a project for multiple days on the same project, those will have the best advantage using Q-tiering. For QNAP users who actually use a lot of random data and random files with your QNAP NAS, cache acceleration is the next option for you guys. So cache acceleration again will so I'm going to set up a cache acceleration right here. What the main difference between cache acceleration and Q-tiering is that cache acceleration is not part of the storage pool. So if you look at so right here I have a 19 terabyte, right? I'm going to add these m.2s in them, which is again 2 terabyte m.2s. So it should be I'm going to set up RAID 1, so it should give you it should going to give it. Sorry, the volume should be for 2 more terabytes, right? So if I add this into cache acceleration, my storage pools will still remain as 19 terabyte. It's not going to increase to 21 terabyte because I added cache acceleration. Cache acceleration is temporary storage that the QNAP will use for live data. So when you're actually using the NAS, currently QNAP will put the whatever data you're actually using into the cache acceleration or cache files or in the cache SSDs. And then once you're done with the data, QNAP will immediately transfer that data back into hard drives. QNAP won't keep that data stored into SSD drives for a longer period of time. It's just a random storage that QNAP will use when you're actually using the NAS. When you transfer something into the NAS, QNAP will transfer that data first into SSD drive and then into your hard drive if you have read and write storage. So let's set up cache acceleration and see what options you have to select for video editors. So you hit plus. So 1 second. I'm sorry about that. So let's continue. So hit plus to add cache acceleration. Hit next and then select your SSD drives that you have right here. So you have two different options, right? You have cache type as read only, read and write, and write only. Depending upon the scenario, if you just want read only caching, the QNAP will only copy whatever you want to use for read only caching. If you have read and write options, QNAP will when you write something into the SSD drives or into the QNAP will write that data into SSD and then transfer that into your hard drive and write only. If you want write only, QNAP will only do write only caching, won't do read only caching. So if you do read only caching, you can actually select RAID tab as RAID 0, because even if you lose a drive into if you lose one of the SSD drives, it doesn't matter because QNAP will always have a backup stored inside the hard drive. So that is okay if you have read-only caching and you still lose a drive, or if you lose both drives, it's fine as well. But when you're doing write-only caching or read and write caching, you want to have some kind of redundancy, because when you're writing data, the data is first written into the hard drive, into the SSD drives, and then it's transferred into the hard drive. So while it's writing data into the SSD drives and you lose let's just if you select RAID 0, right, and you write something into the SSD into the NAS, the data, as I mentioned before, it's gonna first write into the SSD drive and then it's gonna transfer into your hard drive. So while that process is happening, when you lose a drive, your whole RAID is gone. So whatever data you've written that may be corrupt, they may be lost, and also if it's a part of a file, it actually can't corrupt the rest of the data into your hard drive. So you don't want to ever select RAID 0 when you're doing some kind of write caching. Always select some kind of redundancy when you're selecting read and write cache. So once you have selected the RAID type and cache type, hit next. SSD over provisioning is a better option, so it can boost your performance. You can actually select SSD profiling tool, give you better numbers of what you select, but 10% should be a better option. For cache mode, for video editors, we recommend all IO, so it gives you the best performance for video streaming or video editors or media streaming. But for virtualization or database application, you can select random IO. So when you select those options, hit next. You want to select which folder you want to, which volume you want to cache, and then hit next. And then once you start creating, it will start creating that that cache into your QNAP NAS. So it's okay, and QNAP will start creating cache, and you can start using it after a few moments. Again, I don't recommend starting cache acceleration or disabling cache acceleration while you're using the NAS. It's always recommended doing it after the fact when you're done with your NAS, when you're done writing or reading data from the NAS. Another option I would recommend is snapshots, right? Let me see if you have any files in the Yeah. Another option is snapshot, right? Snapshot manager. So with snapshot, you can actually have some kind of protection in case if there's any corruption or accidental data loss. So you can actually take snapshots into and ensure that you have a copy of your data into your QNAP NAS. So in case if there's a file that got corrupted, or if there's a file that got deleted, you can actually restore that using snapshot. So with snapshot, you can actually schedule a snapshot. You always want to schedule your snapshot to be taken. Either you can do it daily, weekly, hourly, and then you can select the times that you want to take snapshots at. You can also do smart snapshot, which what I mentioned is only going to take snapshot if there's any data or that's been modified. If you've written something or read something on the NAS, or modified something on your NAS, it's only going to take a snapshot during those times. So you can also do that as well. You can also do versioning as well, which is smart versioning. It will keep, so you have 3 different options. So you can keep snapshots for last few days or last few months. You can keep a number of specified snapshots. You can actually ask the QNAP to take or keep snapshots or keep last 10 snapshots, and you can do that as well. You can do smart versioning as well, where you can actually keep 24 hourly snapshots, 7 daily snapshots, 4 weekly snapshots, or 12 monthly snapshots, right? I'm gonna select months. I'm gonna select you have to keep 1 month of my snapshots into your QNAP NAS, and then you have to ensure that you have some kind of SSD so guarantees space inside your pool. So you have to ensure that, because snapshot does require some space to be stored, so you have to remember that you have to reserve some space into your storage pool. Depending upon what you want, how many snapshots you want to save, you can actually start with 20%, or you can actually go down all the way down to 5%. Recommendation is 20%, so it can actually give you some kind of you can actually save multiple snapshots. If you do like 5%, you may not have enough space for multiple snapshots or multiple versioning as well. So you can set up guaranteed snapshot, hit OK. And once you've done that, once you've selected the snapshot, QNAP will start taking snapshots. So I can actually take a snapshot right now. So it's going to take the snapshot. Let's say, for example, let's say if somebody's using the NAS, right, and by mistake let's say if he deleted something from the NAS. Let's delete this particular file permanently, and let's do this again. Let's take another snapshot. So NAB video, I think it was video 2, right? Yeah, there was 4 different files that were there in that in the other one. So there was 4 different files that were there before. Now on the new snapshot, obviously because I deleted the file, it's not going to be showing. But let's say if that was an important file, I want to restore that particular file, you can actually go back on the previous snapshot, and you can see right here that file is available, and I can actually either restore this file to the same location, and I can click restore file, and it's going to restore that. In case if the file was not deleted, it was just corrupted, and if you restore that, it's going to override that particular file. Or if there's no other file in that location, just click OK. QNAP will now start restoring this file. And if you go here, refresh this page, and see the file is back again. So that's how snapshot will allow you to save something in case, even if you deleted the file, if you delete it permanently, QNAP will still allow you to restore that particular file, even if you deleted something. So go back in snapshot right here. I'm gonna show that again. So in the current snapshot, there's no file available, but if I want to restore that particular file, I can just go back to the previous snapshot, click on this. I can either restore to the same location, or I can actually restore to a different location, right? I can restore to a different location on the NAS. I can do it. I can actually restore to another NAS as well. Or I can just select it to a different location on the NAS as well. and I can also download this particular file on my computer. Actually, click on download, and it will download this particular file on the computer. So it won't restore it to your NAS, but I can still download it on my computer, so I can actually access that file on my computer directly if I needed to. So that's how it is. That's how Snapshot allows you to, gives you a versioning. It gives you the ability to restore corrupted file, or even if somebody deleted the file, it actually helps you restore that particular file as well. So that's a great option that we recommend using when you're using the NAS for for different purposes like video editing. The last option I want to show you is connectivity. So I'm going to connect this NAS via Thunderbolt connection. So I have a 872 Thunderbolt connection. I'm just going to connect the cable. So QNAP should let me know. So that was a beeping that just indicates that the Thunderbolt was detected. So if you always want to make sure that on the Mac or Windows computer, you always want to have QFinder installed for Thunderbolt connectivity to work properly. So QFinder should be installed, and if I refresh the page, QNAP should let me know. So see, the Thunderbolt was connected. So QNAP will now let me know if I want to mount this folder, right? So let's say if I want to access the NAS via Thunderbolt connectivity, so you have to mount the folder. So let's say if you did forget to click OK, you can just click on Network Drive, enter the username password for that particular enter the username password for the NAS, and then you can select the IP address, or you can select the Thunderbolt port that you had just connected, and then we recommend SMB or CIF for any connection type, right? So for best performance, we recommend, or especially if you have a newer Mac, just use SMB or CIF. But if you have an older Mac, you can use NFS or AFP as well. But for newer Mac, we recommend SMB or CIF connections always. So select the right protocol, hit OK, and then you can select which folder that you want to mount. So I can select which folder I wanted to mount. Once it's mounted, you should be able to access it on my computer right here. So the connection is already made. I can see that folder that is mounted right here. So I have an Adobe Premiere installed on my computer. Let's say if I want to start a project via Thunderbolt, that I want to add a file directly from Thunderbolt. All I have to do is go to the folder and just drag and drop that file into Adobe Premiere. Oh. And I can see right here the file is already added. So if I click on play, now this file is actually playing directly from my NAS. It's actually not playing it through the computer. It's or the file is not saved on the computer. It's saved on the QNAP NAS. The file is streaming directly from the QNAP NAS. And I can see right here, I can actually do audio. I can do some kind of basic editing. I'm not too familiar with editing options, but I can actually do editing right here if I wanted to. I can actually do right here. And this is all happening live. It's all happening directly from the QNAP NAS. Right here, I can see I can do all these different type of effects directly from the NAS. Directly from Adobe Premiere into the NAS. And this file is actually saved on my NAS. It's not saved on the Mac computer. It's actually saved directly on it's playing off directly from the NAS and actually doing direct editing directly from the NAS itself. If I drag and drop the file, you can actually see there's no buffering going on. It's actually playing back immediately. Whatever I wanted to play, I can actually drag and drop to another timeline as well and hit play. It actually plays back directly. There's no lag. There's no stuttering, there's no lagging at all that's going on with my NAS. I can actually play back another file. Let's try another file. Okay, I can see right here, I can drag and drop directly, and you can see right here, the toolbar. If I can just drag and drop the toolbar, it's actually it's playing back smoothly. There's no stuttering, there's no stopping. If I hit play directly from any timeline possible, it'll start playing back immediately. And as you can see right here, because this is because it's a Thunderbolt connectivity, it's a 4K file that I'm playing back directly off of my NAS itself. So that's how that's the advantage of having QNAP NAS, especially when you have a high-speed connection like Thunderbolt connectivity or 10 gigabit connectivity, and using it for video production. You can actually have multiple editors connected. They can all work on their own files. Like this 872XT has 2 Thunderbolt connectivity and also has a 10 gigabit connectivity. So you can actually connect the 10 gigabit to a switch and actually have multiple 10 gigabit editors of using the switch, and you can also actually have 2 direct connection as well using the 2 Thunderbolt port. I'm using one of them. Actually, I can have another Thunderbolt. I can also actually have another Thunderbolt connectivity computer next to it as well, and they can all work on their own projects, and they can all work together from the same NAS, especially when you have a NAS with SSD drives and hard drives all combined together. So that's it for today's demo. I'm going to pass it back to Cody.
All right. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you, Dval. And so we want to take this time now to just open the floor up for some questions. Anything you have to ask us, just feel free to drop that in the questions, and we'll be answering those for you.
There are some questions that have been that were asked before, so I'm going to just go through them again. So the first question is, this been recorded? Yeah, this session will be recorded, and this will be uploaded to our YouTube channel, and we will actually provide this. Yeah, we will provide this. We will follow up with an email, and you will have a chance to look at the email, and you will have a link to play back the file or go back through the webinar. If you missed something, or if you want to go back and look at something else, you can use that link, or it'll be uploaded to our YouTube channel as well. Another question is, what will be the connection speed, theoretical and real life on an upcoming Thunderbolt 4? So we have a upcoming Thunderbolt 4, and we will actually down the line we'll have more Thunderbolt 4 connectivity NASs as well. But the upcoming one is TS464T4. We currently don't have any speeds posted for that NAS, but because it's only coming with the 4-bay, it's only a 4-bay NAS, and it's only an Intel Celeron processor, so the theoretical or max speed may not be that much compared to previous generation, or it won't saturate your Thunderbolt 4 connectivity. So even if you have all SSD drives, because it may be limited to the Intel processor itself. So but unfortunately, I don't have any numbers to give you right now. Another question is, we have a 3-inch hard drive NAS, and what recommended drives we recommend is Ironwool for Pro, for Resident Red or Red Pro. So Ironwool and Firewall Pro are both recommended models. I think it's listed on our recommended models for all of our NASs. For smaller bay NASs like 2-4 bays, I think Ironwool is okay to use. For larger bay NAS, I think Ironwool Pro would be a better option. Pro gives you better ability to have higher bay NASs, maybe 12, 24 bays, and also gives you, I think, has better warranty information as better specs as well. So Pro would be recommended for higher bay models. I think Ironwool is more than enough for a smaller bay like 2, 4, 6 bay NASs. Do all the NAS come with drive failure prediction? John, unfortunately, no. Drive prediction is a combination effort from Ulink DA drive analyzer. It requires a license, so it's not available for all of our NASs. We actually have an upcoming webinar, which is the next webinar sometime in first week of May, that actually dives deep into the DA drive analyzer. So hopefully you'll be able to see you there as well, and you can get more information about the new application, the drive failure prediction application. But not all of our NASs have that feature. It's a license-based feature. Another question is, So thank you for the webinar. Thank you. I have an 871T. I had a 4-disk RAID 10 setup. I wanted to expand storage pool, but I could not. Suggesting to create a new storage pool. If I create a new storage pool, will my original RAID pool will be safe when I create a new storage pool with the 2 new disks? Okay, so RAID 10 is actually RAID 1 and 0 combined, right? It actually stripes and provides you with redundancy. But RAID 10 only works with pairs of drive. Now, unfortunately, it's not just QNAP's limitation, it's actually RAID 10's limitation. RAID 10 cannot be expanded, or you cannot add disks live or even after the fact when you're using RAID 10. RAID 10 has to be created with all the drives planned together. So in your scenario, you won't be able to expand your RAID storage pool. There are a couple of options you can actually do. Because you have an 871 XT, you can actually, if you only have 2 more drives, you can actually create another storage pool, create another volume, and just use another folder for that particular 2 disks. If you are able to add 4 more disks, you can potentially create another RAID 10 and add them in the same storage pool. So the storage pool now will be combined with your first RAID 10 as well as the second RAID 10 with 4 disks together. And now you have a single storage pool with 2 different RAID groups of RAID 10. So you can do that as well. But if you only have 2 disks, I would not recommend joining that into the current RAID 10 because that will actually render the performance very slow, because we don't want to have the same storage pool with 2 different RAID groups or 2 different RAID types. So because QNAP will take the slowest RAID type, which will be RAID 1 in your scenario. So if you only have 2 disks, I would recommend waiting to get another 2 more disks. If you're unable to wait, then just set up another storage pool with RAID 1. Another question: if you have a QNAP with 2 power supplies, are you able to get an alarm if one is broken? Oh, I think what you mean. I don't think it beeps when you have a power supply that fails, but QNAP will actually change the status light in orange or red when a power supply fails. And also it actually lets you know in the logs that you have a failed power supply. So if you do have a failed power supply, and you can actually look in front of your NAS to see if there is any orange or red light, or you can actually go into storage pool, in your system logs and see what kind of error message you have. You can also set up notification. On the notification center, you can actually set up, you can just use your email address. The QNAP will actually send you an email when there is a power supply that has failed. That's on the notification center. Then you actually send you email. Unfortunately, I don't have a rack mount that I can show you live, but you can actually do that as well. What is the best performance settings for an 8 NAS SSD, RAID 5 or RAID 6 or RAID 10 on all hard drives? I would recommend RAID 5 for, so as I mentioned before, I'm hoping that you're actually decided with my previous example if you want to use RAID Q-tier or SSD caching, but I would recommend RAID 5 for both of them. That will give you better performance for an 8-bay NAS, but you have hard drives and SSD combined or hybrid setup. That is all for the questions today. We're gonna keep the session or webinar live for 2 more minutes. If you have any further questions, just keep asking away. If not, then we'll just end the webinar, and thank you all for joining, but we'll wait for 2 more minutes. Now, before we go, we want to make sure we want to announce something for the upcoming NAB show.
Yeah, so if you're familiar with NAB, it's a major trade show for video production, National American Broadcaster Show. It's going to be April 24th to April 27th at the Las Vegas Convention Center, and we'll be exhibiting there. So if you want to stop by, if you're there, we're booth number N4032. So we'd love to see you there. We'd love to talk with you there, and we can have a more in-depth discussion in person if you happen to be there.
Yeah, well, I'll be there at the show. If you guys have any questions, you can always ask with the ball, and I'll be happy to show you what's new with us. We'll be showcasing our the new Thunderbolt T4 NAS, as well as all flash NAS as well that we have, the upcoming all flash NAS, so, and also direct connectivity as well. So a lot more options that we'll demo during the show, and I'll also be able to help you answer all the questions as well. If you have another questions, what's the difference between SSD caching and queuing? So I went through on my demo, but just a quick recap. SSD caching again is temporary storage, so it's not going to be added into your storage pool, and we recommend for users who use a lot of random files. They work on different projects at different times. They're not using the same file over and over again for multiple days. They're just working on the same file for maybe a couple of hours, then just starting another project, another file, maybe another project. But they're not working on the same file over and over again for multiple days. SSD caching is for you guys. But if you're actually working on the same file for multiple days, or there's a project that you're actually working on for multiple days and actually has multiple files, SSD Q-tiering is for you, because Q-tiering will keep that file stored in the SSD caching for multiple days, and it's actually will be part of your storage pool rather than just be a random storage. So hopefully that answers that question quickly. So follow-up question: will save a copy of the file in HDD pool? No, SSD caching, again, if you have read cache, then yes, there will be a copy of the file in the hard drive. If you have write cache, QNAP will first copy that file into SSD, and then it will slowly transfer that into hard drive, or that's called flushing. So that's how SSD caching will work. For Qtier, no, Qtier will keep a copy. So Qtier will only keep one copy. Either it will be on the SSD drive, or will be on hard drive. So because SSD is now part of your storage pool, it's another RAID group. QNAP, and it's actually not a temporary storage, it's actually permanent storage. QNAP will keep whatever file you're actually using on the SSD drive. So definitely you want a redundancy. Maybe RAID 5, RAID 10 on SSD as well. And then whatever projects you're not using will be on hard drive. So, but it won't be two different copies. It will be just one copy on Q-tiering. And for SSD caching, read cache will have multiple copies. Write cache will have one copy. Because once you write that in, it will be written into SSD, and then it will be transferred into hard drive. But yes, so always for anything write cache, have redundancy. For read cache, you can actually have RAID 0. Perfect. We'll wait for one more minute for any further questions. If you have another questions, does Qtier work on M.2 drives? Yes, it can actually work on M.2 drives as well. With 871X, it's 871T. I think 871T does have M.2. If it does, yes, it does. Yeah, M.2s can be a part of your Qtier as well. All right, so that is it for today. Thank you everyone for joining our webinar. Again, if you have any follow-up questions, you can always email us at ussales@qnap.com, and we'll be happy to assist you as well. But and look out for future emails for our future webinars and workshops. But again, thank you everyone for joining our webinar today. You guys have a great day.